Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. I have started watching a new television series, and I know, just like with Breaking Bad, I am way behind. Breaking Bad, I basically picked up the last week. Everybody was buzzing about the last television show, and I just finally gave in, and I started watching them on Netflix. And within a month, I was able to complete the whole season. I believe that I had to watch the last of the episodes that weren't up on Netflix yet, which I believe was the last 10 or 12 episodes, however many was the final stretch of the last run. I ended up having to watch them on streaming sites online, so I finished about a month after everybody else had been along for the ride. And I remember how fun it was to talk with a whole bunch of my friends that were able to watch along with the show. So after a little bit of deliberation, the show was on my Netflix queue for a long time. I'd always heard some things about the show being very good, and it was a big series on FX that a lot of people talked about. And finally, when Chris Jericho mentioned how great, I believe, the season 6 ending was, he talked all about it like it was a spoiler, and he was basically telling people that if you didn't want to listen, not to listen. And I listened to it anyways because I wanted to hear what the show was about. At this point, honestly, I've forgotten everything that he said, so it's not the biggest deal about it. But once Chris Jericho talked about it, it was basically what set me in. Like, this is going down. I'm going to watch this show. And honestly, after the first episode, I was on the fence about if I wanted to watch this show or not. The second show had a little bit of action in it, but I could have gone either way. And in 3 and 4, after about episode 4, I really wanted to hang it up. I really wanted to say, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this isn't my show. But they were really setting the tone of basically. They did a lot of action in the first 2 shows, and then basically it was like they were growing and showing you the family. They were having to turn to these bad biker guys into basically good guys that you cared about, that you wanted to see them do wrong, and you were rooting for them to sell enough guns to make money and, kill these people because it was going to help them out from not going to jail. It was sort of like setting the story the same way that Breaking Bad was, that basically, he was out there, he was selling meth, but he was taking care of his family because he was about to die from cancer. And, so he was doing a good thing by, trying to get as much money for his family. And, that's how it all started, and then it grew into the big deal that it was. Now with Breaking Bad, that was a real fun thing to do. And one of the things that I wish that I would have done is because I got to see my buddy Luke Cara. He made a few videos about Breaking Bad. It was one of the things that really started to break me down into wanting to watch that show. So basically, I thought that, by the time I got to the end, he was asking me if I was going to make a video about it so I can sort of tell everything that went along with it. The way my memory works, it's not the best. So I thought with Sons of Anarchy, I would start sort of like a diary, I guess you can say, or maybe just a string of videos, maybe just one video at the end of every season, since I just finished season 1, and I think this is a really good show. I've been telling a lot of people at my work that I'm hooked on it, and a lot of the people that are more ahead of me have warned me, basically, that, once it hits about season 3, maybe about season 4, it really starts to run out of gas a little bit, and, basically, they're trying to warn me, that at the same time, it's like, I made it through Lost, people. If I can make it through Lost, I can make it through about anything that's running out of gas. Lost was a great show, by the way. I love the way that it ended. I was cussing at the television as it went along. But basically, I don't know how to tell this story without telling a whole bunch of spoilers. And if I'm telling the spoilers, I apologize to people that haven't seen it. But I'm trying to talk you into watching the show, because as of right now, it's one of my favorite ones. And if anybody can avoid from putting spoilers down in the comment box below when they're talking about it, I greatly would apologize, but I would like to talk to you about it if you can talk to me in the tone that I'm at, where you know that I don't want to know what happens in the future. I've already went to tweet a picture of my favorite character, and when I went to go look for a picture on Twitter, I accidentally saw something that I shouldn't have seen, so I'm sort of setting myself up for something that I know that's going to happen now down the road. I just don't know when it's going to happen, so that's one of the bad points. But basically, there's Jax, and basically Jax is the vice president of a biker group that his dad created, and it's weird because his mom is now hooked up with the guy who is the president of the leader. They never really tell you how the dad died. That's something that I'm hoping is going to come up somewhere along in the future. Basically, where they tell the story of the father. Through a series of events, he comes across like a journal, a manifesto, maybe even an autobiography of, basically everything that his father did with this biker group that grew into something that he didn't want it to be. Basically, what the Sons of Anarchy are now basically isn't what it once was. And one of the most confusing things that went along for this whole first season for me that I had to Google before I found out what it was basically he writes out this story as I can't remember the exact words, but it's like the rise and fall of Sam Crow. And he writes Sam Crow as you would write Sam, S-A-M, and then Crow. So I would think Sam Crow is a guy. Maybe it's his dad's name. Maybe it's somebody that, that is part of the Sons of Anarchy's start, one of the founding members. And so they keep mentioning it. Every time the cops are talking about the Sons of Anarchy, they never talk about them. They always call them, bring me Sam Crow. I want to take down Sam Crow. And so I start thinking, is this, the president's other name, like he goes by this name as Clay, but his real name is Sam Crow. Is that what's going on? So once I Googled out and I found the answer, honestly, I found myself to be pretty stupid, and I laughed at myself. But basically, the main thing that's going on is Jax. At the same time all this shit is going down, his soon-to-be ex-wife has a baby named Abel. And, the whole thing that sets it up is that basically Abel is having a baby because she was a smack addict, and she's all, doped up on heroin, that she has the baby, and the baby's born way too early. And basically once the baby is born, she has to have all this extended care where she's being kept in one of those sort of under the light toaster deals. And the nurse that ends up taking care of her, Tara, is Jack's high school girlfriend. They broke up when they were 19. That basically she needed to get away from Jack's and the biker life. So she left. She became a doctor. And for some reason that would come up later, she ended up coming back. Because of the problem of Gemma, Jack's soon-to-be ex-wife, being a heroin smack addict, basically his mom, who is the wife of the leader, Clay, the president of the Sons of Anarchy, basically tells Gemma that she needs to hit the brick. She needs to not be around, and basically because she did drugs, she was never going to be able to call that baby her own. That basically she needed to hit the bricks, or they were going to kill her, pretty much. And as Gemma is doing this, Gemma leaves drugs for her to take. Gemma leaves drugs for Wendy, and Wendy ends up taking the drugs, and she overdoses on methamphetamines, and because of that, she's taken off, and you don't see her for a real long time. She ends up going to a clinic to get help, and by the time she would come back, it's almost to the point of where you don't really remember who she is, but they needed her to be gone so they could sort of build this love story between Jax and Tara, who's almost like you can't tear them apart. As Jax says in the show, it's just basically like, he says, I've been with thousands of girls, I'm not afraid to tell you, but the reason why I'm with these girls is because I need to feel you, and that's the only time I can feel you is when I'm inside of them. And when I mean inside of them, I mean inside of them. That is the only time that I feel anything. And he's trying to get this back together, but at the same time, they're not trying to jump into anything, so they're not trying to do anything. So there's this whole love circle that's going on between Jax, and there's his baby mama, and then he's also the nurse that he's seeing every day. So that gets into this whole real big sticky situation. And then Tara has an ex-girlfriend who is also some sort of a ATF agent. He comes and he's investigating the Sons of Anarchy. So he's driving around and he's taking all these pictures of everything that's going down. It turns out that basically the ATF agent isn't even really working. He's on vacation. He's just down there stalking his ex-girlfriend. And, basically, Jax has to step in because the guy sort of kidnaps her and he's holding her down against her will and he's about to rape her. When finally she fights back, she gets a gun. Jax comes in and basically finishes the job by shooting this dude in the head, which was really, really cool. Blood all out the side of the wall. As Jax is reading this sort of manifesto story that his father had written, he just was noticing that basically, the Sons of Anarchy isn't really, what it once was, and it isn't what it could be. You get to see, they're fighting with their rival gang, who is the Aztecs, who are basically, I believe, a Mexican gang of bikers who is like they're mad. Because basically they're trying to intercept the heroin dealings, which is going on in the city of Oakland. But the Sons of Anarchy, who are gun dealers, are dealing guns to the people that they're trying to get the heroin from. So in order to intercept the guns, they're fighting with the Sons of Anarchy. And then basically there ends up being a truce between the two gangs, where basically it comes down to where the Aztecs come to try and assassinate the President Clay, and because of that, they find some truth in the fact that basically the Sons of Anarchy will start dealing guns to the Aztecs, which makes them happy, and they're going to sell them at the same price as they sell them to, I believe, the rival heroin group, which is based out of Oakland, is called the Nines, or something like that. They're the guys who sell the drugs in the cities, and they have a few different shootouts at one time, and it's always funny because they have these huge shootouts, and because there's only so many main characters that are inside of the show, nobody ever gets hit. There's at one point where Jax rolls up on the Aztecs' bar, which attracts all of them outside, and they lead them on a chase where he takes them all the way over to the opposing people's hangout, where they have basically, like, they surround them because they're all outside on the other side of the street, and they come running across, and they're all exchanging fire, and only one guy that gets shot. And it was weird how that whole shit goes down. And then there's this whole deal where basically there's the county sheriff who's involved with the Sons of Anarchy, because basically he feels that by having a truce with the Sons of Anarchy, it keeps some peace inside of the town and what's going down. And then there's also the deputy chief, who's going to be moving into that sheriff spot once the sheriff retires, and he basically wants to take down the Sons of Anarchy. He wants to be the one guy to knock them down. But then he has a coming of where he just basically he understands why the sheriff is the way he is, where he's dirty, but he's not really dirty, because he has to protect all the citizens of the town. And by, going to war to take down this one biker group, it puts the whole town in crisis mode. Now, of everybody that's in the gang, basically, you're gonna love Jax, or you're not gonna like the show. I mean, that's the way it comes down to it. My favorite character on the show is Opie, who's a guy who ends up doing prison time because of a deal gone wrong, and he's, he's not a founding father, but his dad is on the founding father team, but he's also sort of, that brings him into the table team, but he's also sort of removed from the gang because he also has a family, and his wife doesn't want to be a part of it, but he has to get back in because basically he's not making enough money at his job, and it's a story that you really want to fall in love with. He just basically says that, I fight with my wife over money, and I can't have money if I'm not in the gang, so he gets in the gang. One thing leads to another. The one motherfucking asshole that I don't like on the show is Tig. Tig basically gets into Clay's head thinking that Opie is a rat because it's set up because of the ATF agents. So basically they put a hit out on him because they end up switching cars. Tig ends up killing Opie's wife, which is probably going to be a big deal when Season 2 starts. They're probably going to let this out of the bag, and they're going to come out of it. Other people that are in the gang that I really do like, one is Juice, who seems like he's like one of the youngest members of the gang. He's got a mohawk, and he's got tattoos on the side of his head. borderline stupid, but yeah, he's kind of funny. And then there's also the prospect, who's basically the guy who's coming up into the gang. He wins a fighting tournament. He's falling in love with one of the biker girls named Cherry, which is a cool story to sort of follow along with. But I'm hoping that through this video, you guys become fans of Sons of Anarchy 2. You guys jump on board, because this is a fun show. I've heard that it gets bad down the line, but hey, a lot of shows get bad. Check this out, Sons of Anarchy, Season 1 on Netflix. I think they've got the first 4 seasons, so you can get to there and you can find the rest. Peace out, everybody.